Baby, I can't wait to know what I'm just maybe there's some you can see. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, dee, 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 dee. Mm, baby, I can't wait to know. Mm-hmm. Oh, you can tell me anything you What is up, Skibbity Gamers? Yo. Um. One second, Mr. Buddy. I'm back. Alright, Skibbity Gamers. What should we do? Alright, let's do a little something. We do like a poll or something? Something around there? Cause I'm kidding. Dang. I don't know what I do. Is there a charger? Why, yes, there is. Let's go. Crap. Uh, brother. Uh, what should we do, y'all? I know, stop and, you know, philosophy theory explain. Today we're gonna learn some philosophical theories. All right. So, um, let's learn some philosophical theories. Okay. So I'm just gonna do this. Okay. Then. Oh, I'm behind here. What the? Behind you. Um, sorry, y'all. I'm adjusting my stuff. Okay, let's go to the first philosophical to the philosophical theories. Lock in. Um, lock in, y'all. Hold on. All right, lock in.
Boltzmann brain. Boltzmann brain is a thought experiment that suggests that given enough time, a self-aware brain could randomly form in the universe due to quantum fluctuations. This hypothetical brain would have memories and perceptions of really living in a structured reality, even though it is just a temporary, random occurrence in a chaotic universe. This theory asks if it's more likely for the universe to exist, with all its complexity, or for a single brain with false memories to appear randomly. If the
Uh,
latter is more probable, it implies that everything you experience might just be a brief hallucination by a
I do not believe that for one single
Boltzmann
bit.
brain. Solipsism. Solipsism is the idea that only your own mind can be known for sure to exist. According to this theory, the outside world, other people, objects, and events cannot be definitely proven to exist beyond your own perception. This is because all experiences are subjective, meaning they are understood through your individual mind. So while you may see and interact with the world, solipsism questions if the world actually exists on its own, or if
See, this is what I thought about. I thought about this. I thought about this actually. I don't believe it's true for a single bit, right? Because if if one can picture something else, if one can picture another hallucination that another person doesn't, that's just weird. I don't believe that. I don't believe
it's all
solipsism.
just created by your mind. You have no way to know. The teletransportation paradox. The teletransportation paradox is a thought experiment that explores the implications of teleportation and identity. Imagine a teleportation device that scans a person's entire body and mind, mapping every atom and neural connection. The device then transmits this information to another location, where a new, identical body is constructed, perfectly replicating the original person, including their memories and personality. The
Okay.
paradox arises when considering what happens during this process. Is the person who arrives at the destination the same individual who entered the teleportation machine? If the original person is disassembled at the point of departure, is that person effectively killed? If so, then the new person created at the destination, while identical in every way, is technically a different individual.
Okay. I think that it is a different individual when you teleport. Cause if, cause if like, so picture this, right? Someone dies, different identity, same personality, or the same identity, different personality. Actually, okay, so basically, I believe that the original person is killed, and the clone is just a clone, or just a different person, or a different individual. So I actually think that this is true. The egg theory. Oh my god! Get get this down. So next is the egg theory.
The egg theory. The egg theory is a thought experiment that suggests that every person who has ever lived or ever will live is actually the same being, experiencing life in different forms and at different times. The theory proposes that when a person dies, they are reincarnated as another person without any memory of their previous lives. This process continues until that being has lived every human life in existence. According to the theory, the universe exists as an egg, a place for this single being to grow and mature through the experience of living many lives. Once all lives have been lived, the individual reaches a higher state of consciousness and becomes like a god, completing their spiritual evolution. Just
Okay, I don't believe this for a single moment. I could have been Jesus. I could have been you watching this. I could have been Joe Bartoluzzi. I could have been the person making this. I could have been the person that invented the egg theory. Okay, very interesting. This is very interesting, but I do not believe it, right? Because if there is one being, to say there's an eternal being, right? say there's an internal being, for example, God. I believe in God, and it, and say that you can't live or it can't die. That means that it wouldn't have possibly happened. That means that this egg theory is not, it's not true. But that's what I believe. So yeah.
Just as the universe, in this theory, is designed for growth and evolution, so too is every business. In my opinion, you can't really manage to do so efficiently without today's sponsor, Odoo. Odoo is a business management
Oh my gosh.
Odoo offers hosting and but you'd also check the link in the description. Omnipotence or and thanks again to Odoo for sponsoring today's video. The omnipotence paradox. The omnipotence paradox is a
Oh, isn't this one like, or like if there is God, or if God can make anything, he can make something that even he can't withhold. And then if he can't, then he's like not all powerful.
thought experiment that challenges the concept of omnipotence or unlimited power. It asks whether an all-powerful being like God could create a stone so heavy that even they cannot
Yeah, it's this one. I saw this on Zach D Films, right? It's kind of
lift it.
interesting.
The dilemma arises because both possible answers seem to limit the being's power. If the being can create the stone, they cannot lift it, which means there's something they cannot do. This implies a limit to their power, contradicting the idea of being all-powerful. On the other hand, if they cannot create such a stone, this also indicates a limitation, as they are unable to do something that should be within the scope of omnipotence. But God might be over logic itself, or one might say that by omnipotent, we mean a being that can do anything that is logically possible. Being all-powerful doesn't mean doing logically impossible things like creating a square circle. It means having power over everything that exists. Logical impossibilities, like a square circle, aren't real things that can exist, so it remains just a cool debunked thought experiment.
Okay, so basically what it means is that if you are over something, then you can make stuff that is physically impossible, which obviously can't even happen. So being a god, okay, so basically, if you're God, you can make all and everything, which you but if you can't make something that you can't do, then you're actually not all of everything. So it's kind of like a lose-lose situation here. So I don't know. I don't know. These theories are really good. These theories are really cool, you know. But it's just really hard to debunk them. So
Antinatalism. Antinatalism is a philosophical position that argues against giving birth, suggesting that it is morally wrong to bring new individuals into existence because life itself inherently involves suffering, pain, and hardship. So it is better not to create new lives that will inevitably face these challenges. One key argument in antinatalism is that coming into existence exposes individuals to more suffering than joy, making it not worth it. Additionally, some antinatalists point out the environmental and ethical implications of overpopulation, arguing that it contributes to suffering not just for individuals, but for society as a whole and the planet.
okay, so basically what it means is that if you believe in antinatalism or an antinatalist, then basically you should then you're basically then you're chosen to be infertile or just not have any kids or anything like that because you're obviously going to put them in pain and suffering. I don't believe that, and if you believe that creating life is beautiful, go for it then, you know? So, I don't believe in this, and I'd say that I'd say for joy you need to have some suffrage so you can actually experience joy. Because if you don't know what joy is, then I don't think you're supposed to know what suffering is, right?
You are not free. This theory about the absence of free will from human life suggests that individuals have the ability to make choices and take actions based on their desires. However, they do not have the ability to control the will behind any of their actions, thus making them a slave to their own desires. In order to prove this theory, the following thought experiment is proposed. If you're deciding between which ice cream flavor to pick, chocolate or vanilla, and end up deciding that you genuinely want chocolate, there is absolutely nothing you could do in that situation to change that desire, unless an external factor that you also cannot control is involved, such as finding out that vanilla ice cream is cheaper or that it's not as unhealthy. This shows that the only way for you to do anything is by wanting to do it, which we already determined you cannot control, or by being forced to do it, which you obviously cannot control either, thus proving that free will does not exist.
Okay, so if this theory is true, then if this theory was true, then you wouldn't have a choice to watch me or anything. But say it's to debunk stuff or to get more, you know, like cleanage or, you know, put it into your own words, right? Then there shouldn't be any other reason. So if there is no free will, then if there is no free will, then there should be nothing against. There should be nothing against it somehow, something like that. That's kind of like God's plan. Like if you say God's plan is like this entire storyline, then yeah.
Ship of Theseus. The Ship of Theseus is a philosophical thought experiment that questions the nature of identity and change. It begins with a ship owned by the hero Theseus, and over time, as the ship sails, its wooden parts decay and are replaced with new ones. Eventually, every original part is replaced, which leads to the central question: is the fully restored ship still the Ship of Theseus?
Um, I'm I'm still gonna say yeah. I'm gonna say yes. All right. So let's put it in another perspective, right? So you have dead skin cells that are dying, and you're just getting more reproduced. You're still the same being and the same human, just different, just in a different form or different matter. You know. So say, but there's like other reasons too. Like for example, if you eat something and it turns into poop or manure or something, then is it still food or is it still the thing you ate? Then logically you're gonna say yeah because it's the food you consumed and you're just exiting it out your body. So I'm gonna say this is the this Theseus's ship is his ship, and yeah.
Complicate matters, suppose the original parts are gathered and reassembled into a ship. Now, there are two ships, one composed entirely of new materials, and one made of the original components. This scenario showcases how definitions are artificial and not as stable as we think. Does the ship retain its identity despite having all its parts replaced? Which ship is the true ship of Theseus? Ethical egoism. Ethical egoism is the philosophical theory that individuals should always act in their own self-interest and have no regard for the consequences of their actions on others. This theory asserts that actions are only morally right if they benefit the individual performing them, emphasizing that values like sympathy and altruism were an idea constructed by weak individuals who could not assert themselves in society, so they had to make up an entire moral system to justify their incompetence. Ethical egoism argues that, like all other animals, we have a deep desire to secure our own survival, and we should not deny it or act against it, as it would be unnatural and damaging to do so.
Okay, so what it means is that if say you have no power to do stuff that you're supposed to do because that's your character, the person or the reason you exist. The reason you exist is because of ethical egoism. That's basically what you do if you believe in it. So yeah.
Furthermore, ethical egoists argue that by pursuing their own goals, individuals may also contribute positively to society, as their actions can lead to overall better outcomes for other people as well. Rocco's basilisk. Rocco's basilisk is a thought experiment suggesting that a future artificial superintelligence could be motivated to punish or torture individuals who knew about the possibility of its existence but did not actively help in bringing it into reality. The purpose of this punishment would be to incentivize people to support its development. Essentially, the AI might create virtual simulations where those who fail to assist in its creation are tortured. Esse est.
This is your brain
Oh my
when you're
gosh!
struggling to focus. And this is your brain when you're in the zone.
So basically, what it means is that if you made AI and you don't support it anymore, the AI is gonna hate you and force you to like it. If not, then you're done. You're done out.
Percipi. It means that everything only exists if it's being perceived. For example, if you sit on a chair and stand up without looking at the chair has ceased to exist. Quantum immortality.
Oh, I get it. So say a fairy is behind you. You have a thought that a fairy is behind you. So basically, say there's a camera somewhere. Say someone is acting as their character to you. You're gonna believe that it's there. But if you don't, then it's not then but if you're not there, then it's done.
Quantum immortality is a thought experiment stemming from the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. This theory suggests that a conscious being cannot experience their own death because there exist alternate realities where they continue to survive. The core concept proposes that every decision or event creates multiple branches of reality. In life-threatening situations, there will always be at least one version of reality where the individual survives. Therefore, when faced with danger, the individual's consciousness only perceives outcomes in which they remain alive. As a result, quantum immortality implies that individuals would perceive themselves as immortal as they can never experience their own death.
Okay. So what it means is that if you're living right now, you're seeing this video, but in a different life or in a different world, you might have died way earlier. Something you're not watching this. So say a car smashed into me right now, then another universe or another quantum thing is still living through this exact moment. So
Philosophical zombies. Philosophical zombies are hypothetical beings that look and act like humans, but lack conscious experience. These beings behave exactly as humans do, but they have no inner life, no subjective feelings or thoughts. The thought experiment challenges materialism, which holds that consciousness can be fully explained by physical processes in the brain. If it's possible to imagine a being that is physically identical to a human, but lacks consciousness, then consciousness might not be fully explained by physical states.
okay, so say you're a philosophical zombie or whatever. You're just watching this just to watch. And then say my mom is just existed because she kind of needs to or something because of the brain of like the brain or like a program or something that's just living life as it's intended to for something.
Zeno's paradoxes. Zeno's paradoxes are a set of thought experiments from the Greek philosopher Zeno, who used them to argue that motion is impossible, or at least not what it seems. The most famous paradox is Achilles and the tortoise, which highlights the problems that come up when we think about dividing things into infinitely small parts. In this example, Achilles, a fast runner, is racing a tortoise, which is much slower. To make it fair, the tortoise starts ahead. Zeno argued that Achilles can never actually catch up to the tortoise because every time he reaches the point where the tortoise has moved a little bit further ahead. Imagine walking towards a destination. To reach it, you'd first have to walk halfway there, and to walk halfway there, you'd first have to walk a quarter of the way there, and so on, creating an infinite number of steps and causing you not to be able to reach your destination.
Oh, okay, okay, I get it.
Problem of induction. The problem of induction, introduced by David Hume, questions how we can justify our belief that the future will resemble the past. For example, we expect the sun to rise tomorrow because it has risen every day before. However, Hume pointed out that there's no logical guarantee this will always happen. Just because something has occurred many times doesn't mean it will continue to do so. Any justification for this assumption relies on past experiences, which is circular reasoning. If we say that we trust induction because it has worked in the past, we are using induction to justify induction. This means that our reliance on patterns in the world is based more on habit than on solid logical grounds.
Okay, I get it. I understand it now. So what the heck? So that example is like the best example there. So say so it's like a routine, right? So if you expect something in the past, if you expect something in the future because of the past, then that's the problem of induction. All right. So if you predict something because it's always happened, then from the past, since it's already happened, means that it's probably going to be more expected than ever.
The experience machine. The experience machine is a thought experiment proposed.
Okay, I'm gonna guess it. So basically, it's gonna be like a world of VR, right? And then if you die, you're actually woken up or something like that. I'm gonna guess there.
Proposed by philosopher Robert Nozick to challenge the idea that pleasure and happiness are the only things that matter in life. In this scenario, imagine a machine that can provide you with any experience you desire. You could feel immense joy, love, success, or any other pleasurable sensation,
Isn't that just heroin?
all while being completely unaware that these experiences are simulated. Nozick asks whether you would choose to plug into this machine for the rest of your life. Many people intuitively reject the idea of living in the experience machine, preferring real life with its struggles and hardships over.
Okay, so basically, if you have joy and happiness, then you're gonna be joyful and happy forever, forever and ever until you die. But people say no because if so, say heroin. I heard this. Heroin makes you experience pure calmness, joy, and happiness, but only temporarily. So, and if you take another dose of heroin, you're not gonna feel that exact same thing. So your first dose of heroin is your best dose of heroin, or your most pleasurable experience of heroin. You can't really get up there with your first dose. So, stay if they're kids, and make sure you use your dose of heroin. Um, yeah.
An artificial existence filled with pleasure. This rejection suggests that there are values beyond mere pleasure, such as authenticity, relationships, and the pursuit of genuine achievements.
Okay, okay. I have another thing. So, if you're joyful and happy, are you actually joyful and happy for the rest of your life? If you're actually in the experience machine, I don't think so. I don't think so. Because if you have that in the same level of joy, pure joy and happiness, then like, are you gonna still experience the same pleasure or the same joy, happiness as last dose or last thing?
Moral anti-realism. Moral anti-realism is the philosophical view that there are no objective moral truths or values independent of human beliefs and opinions. According to this perspective, moral statements do not describe facts about the world, but are instead expressions of our attitudes or preferences. For example, if someone says, killing people is wrong, a moral anti-realist would argue that this statement doesn't reflect an absolute truth. Instead, it expresses a social consensus or a personal belief.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that metaphor is insanely good. Like, again, probably the best one there. And say and so if you're a moral anti-realism ist or whatever, and then someone says, yeah. like killing is bad, then look, oh,
If someone says, killing people is wrong, a moral anti-realist would argue that this statement doesn't reflect an absolute truth. Instead, it expresses a social consensus or a personal belief.
okay, so it's a personal belief. So if you believe that killing is not wrong, then you're a moral anti-realist or something like that. And if and then if someone else says that it is wrong when you say it's wrong, right, then you just created a paradox or something like that. So
The idea is that actions like killing are not inherently good or bad. Rather, we label them as such based on cultural norms, societal agreements, or individual feelings.
yeah. So it's basically a neutral thing or a self-decision thing. So
The paradox of
Ever wondered what
oh
your home
my
looks like from
gosh!
space? Enter your address and get a 360-degree satellite.
of tolerance. The paradox of tolerance, created by philosopher Karl Popper, examines the limits of a tolerant society. Popper argues that a truly tolerant society should not tolerate intolerance, because if a society extends tolerance to those who are intolerant, it risks allowing intolerant groups to gain power and suppress the very freedoms that enable a tolerant environment. For example, if a tolerant society allows hateful ideologies to flourish, those ideologies could undermine the rights and freedoms of others, which creates a dilemma. If a society tolerates all viewpoints, including those that advocate for intolerance or violence, it may ultimately lead to the destruction of tolerance itself. Popper suggests that in order to maintain a tolerant society, it is necessary to take a stand against intolerant beliefs and actions, even if this means limiting the freedom of those who follow them. The knowledge argument. The knowledge argument, often illustrated by the thought experiment known as Mary's Room, was proposed by philosopher.
okay, wait, go back. So if you're intolerant to tolerance, this is like MF Doom rhyming stuff, you know? So basically, if you are tolerant to intolerance, then you should believe that intolerance is also tolerant or something like that, you know?
Even if this means limiting the freedom of those who follow them. The knowledge argument. The knowledge argument, often illustrated by the thought experiment known as Mary's Room, was proposed by philosopher Frank Jackson, who created a scenario in which a girl named Mary is a brilliant neuroscientist who knows everything there is to know about the physical aspects of color, but she lives in a black and white room and has never experienced color herself. One day, Mary leaves her room and sees a red apple for the first time. The knowledge argument poses the question, does Mary learn something new about color when she sees the apple? Jackson argues that she does, because although Mary had all the scientific knowledge about how color perception works, her experience of seeing color for the first time provides her with new information that she could not have known while confined to the black and white room.
Okay, so basically, if she knows everything but learns something new, did she actually know everything? That's basically what it means, I'm guessing.
This thought experiment suggests that there are non-physical aspects of knowledge, specifically the subjective experiences of perception. The infinite monkey theorem. The infinite monkey theorem is a thought experiment that suggests that given an infinite amount of time, a monkey randomly pressing keys on a typewriter or keyboard would eventually type out any given text, such as the complete works of William Shakespeare, helping to understand how long infinity really is. If you want to discuss this video or
Okay, so basically, what it means is that if a monkey types down every single thing, or every single phrase, or every single, saying or sentence, paragraph, any word, any phrase, every single mumbo jumbo you type on a keyboard or whatever, then it would probably take forever. Probably take infinity years. Probably take everything, and that just shows how giant, you know, how giant infinity is. Infinity is. But very cool video. Very cool video. So So guys, thank you so much for watching.